Alright guys, so we are back for part 2 of our Star-Maiden edit. So how did you think part 1 went? I thought it would pretty well. It's really shaping up to be a beautiful image. And in this video, we're going to go ahead and pick up where we left off with, I believe, the range mask, and we're going to take it all the way through to the end of the edit. Okay, so you ready? Get set, let's go! Now the next thing we need to do is we're going to start working on just the background, not the nebulosity. We're going to protect the nebulosity stuff. We're going to work on the background, which is going to be kind of tricky because, goodness, there's so many stars in this image. But let's go up here to Process, Mask Generation, and let's do a range selection, okay? Let's turn on the live view. And my goal here is to slide this up so only the good stuff is white and the background is black. Now you got to remember we've got a lot of good stuff and stars going on here, but we don't want to include the noise, so it's kind of a judgment call, and every image is different. Let's see. I think I'm going to stick, well, let's start right there for right now. Let's make the edges fuzzy, which puts a nice little gradient on them so it's not a harsh line. Let's bump that up and let's smooth the edges just a little bit there. That looks good. I'm going to lower the limits some. That way, because that fuzziness that I created took away some of the nebulosity there. So let's try there, okay? And this is trial and error. If you don't like it, make another one. It's not a big deal. And let's apply this. All right, let's minimize. Let's close the preview. And there is my fancy mask. And we are going to apply this image, this mask. Click, drag, and drop it. Double squares, let go. We'll minimize this. This range mask, we're going to use it again later, so do not delete him, okay? And right now, if I was to leave this be, I would be working on the nebula and not on the background. But right now, I really want to work on the background. So let's go back to our mask and invert it one more time. Okay? So all this black area is what we're going to work on. The red stuff is protected. We are not going to touch it. And let's turn Command K, Control K, turn this off. And the first thing we want to do is, let me zoom in on this so we can see. Get some background area. And this is going to be hard to tell. But a lot of times this background area has a lot of color noise that you want to deal with. And you just kind of want to neutralize it and get some of the color out and the black in. I'm going to reset my multiscale linear transform. I'm going to give it 8 layers. And let's start at about layer 5 right here under detail layers. Let's take the bias and drop it down to -1. This is desaturating it is what it's doing. If we were to make this a positive number, we would be adding saturation to our background. So I'm going to take these 4 levels, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We will change our target to be the chromiance section of this image. Okay, and let's run it. Now, I don't really have a whole lot of color noise going on here, but it's a good thing to run just in case. When you're doing your galaxies, it really does make a big difference on them. There we go. Let's minimize this guy. Let's zoom in some more and just see, did it make a whole lot of difference or not? Start right there. Let's do an undo. Not really. So this image probably didn't really matter a whole lot, but that's okay. I did it anyways. Let's play with the histogram one more time. Let me show you what else we can do with it, okay? Reset it, and let's give it a live view. Let's go ahead and take our midpoint, okay? Let's drag it up just a little bit. What does that do? Look at that. It makes the background darker for me. But just the background, not the nebulosity. Now that is clearly way too much. This is a subtle thing. So click it. Let's drag it up just a little bit. because you don't want to create those hard lines. That's why we did all that feathering in that range mask. But that looks really nice there. I darkened it up some right up against the edges, and it just makes it stand out. I like that, and that's where I'm going to leave it. Let's say OK. And I think we are done with this mask for right now, but do not delete the range mask. We need it later, okay? All right, let's minimize this guy. Well, minimize. Click with authority here. My computer must be stretching as we are recording this and editing this at the same time. The poor baby. Okay, let's go to mask and remove our mask. All right, I'm going to do a Command K a couple times. Yep, no mask. We are good to go. Let's do a curves transformation, okay? Let's give it just a little bit of pop. And remember, this pop is to the entire image. Let's make 2 points. I'm just clicking with the left clicker and click and hold and bring it down just a little bit. Oops, you know what I didn't do? Look at that. I'm doing this blind. Let's turn on our live view. Let's give it a reset. Let's start over. Let's click and click. And my mouse went wacky again. Fix it. If you have one of those wacky mice, just fix the view. It's no big deal. It's just irritating sometimes. I'm going to grab the dark point. Now look what I do. I can go crazy, do that. But really, this is just a subtle S. Let's grab this bright spot and let's bring it up. Now you see what I'm doing there? I'm making those stars bright, but I'm really blowing out that core just a little bit. And toggle it off and on and see if it makes you happy. I think that's pretty good. Let's say OK and run it. All right, minimize and close the preview. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to start talking about the stars. We need to create ourselves a star mask so we can start separating stars and nebulas and backgrounds and stuff. So if you click on this identifier tab, bring it out here and let go, you just made yourself a duplicate copy of your image. And we're going to work on that duplicate copy, which they call the clone, and make a star mask out of it. But before we can make a really good star mask, let's modify this and make it an ugly, ugly image. Let's do HDR multiscale transform. Okay, and let's do this number of layers, 3 layers. Let's run it through twice. New instance, drag, drop. And don't worry, this is all in the act of just claiming our stars and nothing else. There we go. There is one ugly image. I'm sorry, I don't mean to hurt your feelings. Let's close this guy. All right, so let's come up here to Process, Mask Generation, and Star Mask. And let's modify this just a little bit here. We want this at 0.2, yes, a scale of 6, and midtones at 0.01. And let's run it. There we go. That's what I want to see there. A black image with a bunch of little stars on there. Now this one here, we're never going to use him again, so technically we could delete him, but I'm going to push him off to the side. These out of my way. Now, but what I need to do is, this is going to be my star mask. It's going to either protect my stars or I need to work on it. So to do that, I need to make those stars brighter to make a better mask. So let's go ahead and do a histogram transformation. I'll give it a reset here. Let's look at our, it is called star mask, right there. Okay, so if you just do a live view on it, and let's take our whites and bring them all the way up, and you want the stars to get bright, but don't get carried away where you're grabbing more than stars and you're grabbing noise. So this is another one of those play situations where you just got to give it all a good little try here. And that looks really good. I'm happy with that. So let's apply it. All right, and we'll close our histogram transformation window. And we'll close this preview window. And this is my new mask. Now what we need to do now is we need to subtract the stars from the range mask, okay? Here's our range mask. There it is. And the goal for all of this is all we want left is nebulosity. So we've got to subtract these two from each other, and we're going to use pixel math to accomplish that. And it's literally just a math equation. I like using the expression editor. Keeps me from having to type things in. And under the RK section here, if we double click range mask minus star mask and say OK, let's go to destination here and stretch it out. We want to generate an output. We're going to create a new image, and we want the image to be grayscale, okay? And let's say go. All right, and this just created me another mask. Now let's minimize star because we're going to use them again later. And we'll minimize the range because he could be needed later, okay? And this is going to be our mask, and it allows us to work on just the nebulosity of this image. Now is the time to look and see, are there any crazy bright stars on here that have this glow around them that if we increase the brightness of our nebulosity, would it increase the brightness of this star and make it look really, really funny? There are some out there, or even like the core of a nebula. Sometimes you don't want some of those bright stars to pop out. This one doesn't have any real crazy runaways except for maybe this guy right here. Okay, so I'm going to just do a really quick clone on that and make him disappear. Now typically what I do is I'll do a save as to this file as a TIFF. I will bring it into Photoshop and I will paint that out just because it's a bit easier. But since it's one spot, we can do that real quick here. Painting, clone stamp. My trick is going to be, because there's not much background of a black spot for me to grab. Let's get all the way down in that corner, okay? Because you see I've got all these little halos from little stars here. This looks about the cleanest area here. Okay, all right, let's look at how big that little plus sign is, and that's my radius. It's only 5. Let's bring it up to like 50. And see how big that circle is? So as long as I've got enough black area right there, that should work fine. So I will click here, and it just copied exactly what was in where that X is. So I am just going to delete out that area. If I need to move it, I hold down the command button and grab another spot, and let's just grab right through here. That looks good. And let's look at our previous image here. I mean, I've got a spot here, but I don't think it's going to be too crazy. I think that's got some nebulosity around there. I'm not going to play inside there, and that looks like nebulosity. So that's all I'm going to do. So hit the green check mark to execute it, and this will be my new mask. Blow it up so you can see it. There he is. So now I need to grab this new mask, bring it over here, and apply the mask to our image. I'll do a Command K so you can see it. Come on. Command K. There we go. And this time I don't want to invert it. I'm actually wanting to work on everything that you see here that's white. Let's turn Command K and turn it off a little bit. Let's see, I'm going to close some of these guys out. Too much on my screen. Let's work with saturation. But let's do saturation with our multiscale linear transform. And remember, doing -1 was desaturating. Well, now I want to use a positive number, but I don't want to go too crazy. So let's, oops, I'm on layer 8. Let's make that guy 0.2. Make this guy 0.2 and 0.15 and 0.15. Now, a lot of times I actually use smaller numbers than this. And let's see, we're going to work with the chromium section of this image again, and let's run it. And let's see how saturated this turned out. All right, I kind of like that. I'm going to leave it right there. Let's minimize this guy, and with my mask still on, we can use the color saturation wheel if we want. Let's start over here. Let's add some random points. I'm just clicking with the left. Okay. All right, so let's move up. I'd like the red area to be just a little bit more punchy. If there's any green in here, I don't want to see it. There's no green in space. But you know, if I've got some blue in there, I want to see some blue pop out. It's subtle. I see a little bit of bluish stuff going on through here, but not a whole lot. Let's pump up the magentas. How does that look? Let's turn it off. There we go. Let's turn it on. I like it. It's maybe just a little high. Go to something that you like and then back it down just a little bit, okay? Because when you walk away and come back to this, you might have a different opinion. All right, I'm going to leave that there and let's apply it. All right, let's turn off live preview, minimize, and turn off the preview. And here's our image. Let's work on some HDR of this and see if we can bring out some of this fine detail. Let's take this up to, let's say 10 times, but we're only going to run it once. To lightness and lightness mask, and let's run it. And that should bring me out some veins in here, but it will also mute some of that bright spot. All right, that looks good. Let's zoom in just a little bit so you can see what it did here. All right, I'm going to undo it and watch through here. So you kind of muted out some of that bright spot, but there's some dark lanes underneath here that it made them come back out. There we go. That looks good. Let's, for grins and giggles, let's drop this down to 8 and see what it does. I play with these numbers all the time. You know, you just basically run them until you see something that you like. All right, that kind of introduced more gray. Let's zoom out and see what it looks like. That removes some of the white. Let's look at the first one. Toned it down some. It looks kind of neat. I'm going to leave it there for right now. Okay. Next, let's see. We could do some sharpening, but I'm not real thrilled with the sharpening in this software. Let's go ahead and remove this mask. Remove the mask. Okay. And let's play with our curves just a little bit, since we did just mute out that section here. I'm going to turn live view on, and this is the same curve that I had before, okay? So let's turn it off. Let's turn it on. Same curve works for me, so we'll just say run with it. All right, and that's a little too punchy. We're not going to do it twice. Let's minimize him, close the preview. And here's my image so far. I'm really happy with how this is. I mean, for first light out of a telescope, this is great. I am very happy. This is my first time ever shooting the Lagoon Nebula. All right, so let's see. What would we like to do now? There's some dark structure in here. So out of curiosity, let's run a script under Utilities. And it's called Dark Structure Enhance. We'll run it and let's see if it does anything good for us. I typically run it at default. Wow, did you guys see what that thing just did? Look at all of this dark structure that it just brought out. Isn't that wonderful? So that worked out really well. Now we have one and final step that we're going to do here. And that is we are going to bring some color back to our stars. So to do that, I want to do just the stars. So let's grab the star mask again. Click. Drag to double squares, let go. Let's minimize this guy. We'll do a Command K. Get on the image here. Command K. And there we go. Okay, my red is protected. My white will change. So let's do a Control K. I'm going to zoom in on some of this. Sometimes you really can't see what is happening to all the stars until you zoom in on them. All right, now what I want to do is a curve transformation. Let's give it a reset. Live view. We will have to, there we go. Okay, now what I want to do is saturation. That's this S over here. So we'll hit saturation. Let's grab a spot right there and let's drag it up and watch what it does. See now, if I go too crazy, I want you to see all of that it added back in, but that does not look real at all. So let's bring it back down. That's beginning. Let's try about right there. It doesn't look bad. Let's give it just a little bit more. All right, I like that so far. Let's apply it and let's look at our main image and see what it looks like when it changes over. Sometimes this could add some weird streaking in the stars, so you do have to be careful. Look at that, they look like little gemstones up there. I actually like that a lot. Let's zoom out on this guy and just see it as a whole. What does it look like? That's good. I'm happy with that. That is my image. So this is where I would completely stop with Pixinsight. I would save it in its natural XISF form, and I would save another copy as a 16-bit TIFF file. And from there I would move over to Lightroom and just give it a couple final tweaks before I actually publish it, and then I'd bring it into Photoshop and drop my logo on it. So really not much more to do to this image. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Now for those of you who are keeping tabs on my time, this has taken me 1 hour and 3 minutes. And I am really hoping by the time I'm done editing this video for you guys, it will be much, much shorter with all that processing time. But bear with me if it's still a half hour, guys. I did sit here for an hour recording this for you. So that's what I've got for you guys in this video. I hope you enjoyed this processing again in Pixinsight. This was a one-shot color image taken with a ZWO ASI 183 color cool camera. And what I didn't tell you was I forgot to turn on the cool function. So this was actually taken at 20 degrees positive Celsius. And the image still turned out great. It was salvageable. Now, normally I do things at minus 10°C, but you know what? I'm very happy with this image. I can't complain at all. Now, the telescope that this was done with was an Altair Astro 80mm Starwave triplet telescope. So if you want any information on these items, I'll leave you some links down below in the descriptions. If you want to know how I created this template project for you, I will pop that up in one of the little ball exclamation marks they put in the top of YouTube. You know how they like to do all that. But if you guys like this kind of video, please consider subscribing. I appreciate every one of you who take the time to do so. I look forward to doing something new next week. If there is something you would like to see specifically, please leave it down in the comments below, and I will add that to my ever-growing list of things to work through for you guys. And please don't forget to like this video and share it with all your Astro friends, okay? Let's build this community. We are now at 11 months on YouTube. We are doing fantastic. We are closing in on 2,000. So the question is, do you guys think you can help me make it to 2,000 subscribers by the end of this week? That would be awesome. 11 months and 2,000 subscribers. That would be quite an impressive accomplishment for me. So come on guys, subscribe. I need you. All right? Well, I will see you guys next week. And until then, I am wishing you all some great health and clear skies. And I love every one of y'all. Goodbye, y'all.